today, Harry. I so welcome to obtain your title Mental Health Beyond Graduation, Constitutive Career and Professional Life. So when we talk about autism and neurodiversity, right, many conversations focus on childhood, your dedication. So what happens after graduation when they move into career and about brain, their professional life, right? So for many neurodivergent individuals, this transition will be exciting and also can be challenging. So while he brings opportunities to contribute unique strengths, at the same time that may be barriers too. So both these expectations, managing the stress, advocating for support, and feeling understood. So this is what we're going to explore today. So let's join me welcome Dr. Abigail from PETRONAS Research. Yeah. And she has a 30 years old experience and PhD in molecular chemistry, and she's also a neurodivergent to ADHD and dyslexia, and actively advocates for mental health, and also particularly through the Neurodiversity Centre of Excellence in Petronas. And her goal is to also promote awareness and inclusions in Malaysia, and also show that even given opportunity to neurodivergent individuals, please. Okay, next, I would like to invite Dr. Hasrul. Dr. Hasrul, I open speaking here from my experience in the East Abeki, inclusion and community development, spanning research, policy, and purposes. And he's also a founder director of CIRCLE. He leads partnership with government, industry, and communities to advance inclusive education and capacity building. His work focuses on studying evidence to practical solution and improve participation for independent living and equality of life for persons with disability. And lastly, let's welcome Mr. Bao. Unlike us at the Universiti Pendidikan Counselling Centre, is also an autistic person who brings together lived experience and clinical expertise and to advocate, promote neuroaffirming practices and inclusive approaches that focuses on well-being, identity, and meaningful participation. Okay, thanks for working with them. And okay, it's going to be a very chill topic. I'm nervous. Okay. So let's not delay and start with our first question. So the first question is going to start with their education. So could you please share about me how was your university days? Like what are the challenges or even during your university day of transitions in your education? So how do you feel and what are the challenges that you encountered? Was good with Dr. Abby first?
Hello again. I'm back. So I think previously I've mentioned a little bit about my background. So I'm from the UK, and I was fortunate enough to have a few people in my life who believed in me and saw my potential. But at the same time, there were a lot of challenges. I had a few teachers who were not so supportive. My maths teacher telling me I would fail my GCSE maths right to the exam. I got my C. I'm crying over that ever, that was so good. And then as I went through school, it was I could tell that there was something not right about myself. I say that in inverted commas, as something might be. I think differently, and that is an amazing thing. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's this discrepancy between what you can achieve and what others can't. And I never in a million years imagined myself to be sat here in a PhD. But it really was just a few people giving me a chance that made that happen. So by the time I was in my secondary school, I actually had an art and theatre degree. I did English literature, theatre studies, and geography for my A-levels, zero science. I did not like studying this that much, to be honest. And I decided that, okay, I think I want to do geology. And everyone was like, why? And, my grandmother was like, you're a bit at theatre, in the preface, you'll never be an actor, so don't try. And I just did not, I'm stubborn, and I was like, no, we're going to make this happen. So I applied anyway to some different unis. One of them's Liverpool to do geology.
and I got invited for an interview, and I said, I really want to be this. I love this topic. I worked so hard.
And they gave me a conditional offer because they said, I have so much passion. We want to give you a chance, again, a chance. And I ended up getting in, and I get the second highest mark in my graduation, in my yearbook. And after that, I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do with myself right now? How do I move on from this? You know, I was starting to have doubts my abilities a bit. Okay.
So, quickly. So I then my master's supervisor was like, okay, you have potential to be really good at research and you can send it to PhD. And I said, no, I'm not smart enough to do PhD. And he said, yes, you are. And I basically applied at Queen's University Belfast for a PhD. It was a funded one by the EU. Ironically, we're not in there anymore. And I invited myself over to the uni and said, look, I really want to see your labs. I'm really excited. I love the idea of doing this. And in the end, they offered me 3 different PhDs because you like my attitude, my enthusiasm. I ended up doing a PhD in molecular chemistry in REN. But I really struggled doing my PhD, especially in the first few years, adapting, and you do it alone. It's a very lonely journey, and trying to find the right books quite challenging, to see your honest. Thanks for sharing, Naham.
Thank you so much, David, with that. And you should, first of all, I just want to share my gratitude and why people that very appreciative to be here together with you, everyone. I'm coming here as a public university's lecturer, and we are in the University Superior Idris and very developed. One of the things that I can see the gap between big gap between schooling and keyboard to the higher education. We have a very nice inclusive policy in the higher education last 2019, but they have no any research day about how well the important thing over there research day. And the best day is because I get my PhD exposure in Sydney University. I can see that Australia have been very well on doing the transition from the secondary school to the university. So as like Dr. Abigail suffer, they use a supper until because you need a lot of supporting for our break here. So what we have been done in Sydney, and then I bring back here, then we put a lot of coincident things. So what happened in my research study when I bring my PhD is I'm looking at how well the children disabilities who are in the inclusive environment. You know, even though they have in accepting in their mainstream person, but they have no opportunity to make a friend. They don't have opportunity to developing the relationship. And sometimes, whenever their peers going to celebrating birthday party or so whatsoever, they have not invited, you know. So that's the point that I can feel. Whenever as you go to the higher education level, we need a very specific or very high or refer that quality relationship. That's the point that I bring together today. I do believe that we have discussing previously about the school, about the early intervention. Now we are looking on how we transition between the schooling to the higher education. And later on, when they have got their graduation degree, is another way, another promise on the workplace. I think I stop. Osman.
So you will talk about it later. How about Mr. Bao?
For me, it will be very different because for my universities, there's little issues regarding academic, but really about really navigating the world, understanding yourself, understanding the world, who you are in the world. So I think that, this is why where I am today, I heavily emphasize about identity because, imagine you feel stranger in the world, and that's how I felt in the university setting until you realize that hey, you know what? I could be autistic. And this is actually after my post-undergraduate, my postgraduate studies, because, you know, having undergraduate degrees in psychology, if you're familiar, you just study everything that Via said. You just like, oh, okay, I might have anxiety disorder. Oh, I might have be depressive. But hey, I don't really fit in the criteria until one day that it was just a grief encounter and just really, really considers that you just realize this kid, what he or she is doing is so familiar that I got to look this up. Is this something that, you know, and that's where everything makes sense. Why you had all this question marks about the world, why you're so overwhelmed easily of being triggered by temperature, why you need a different kind of timetable schedule. Like, you know, people love to put 4 days and Friday they just go TGIF, right? Everybody loves that. Thought out, definitely. I'll put classes on Friday and my lectures and teachers should look at me and just say, would you like to get change? I'm like, I'm fine. We're gonna be on every Friday 4 p.m. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so next is based on research, right? So what it shows that many universities are now like they're getting neurodiversity students more in because the neurodiverse students are going into universities, higher education. But what is the gap is that many universities now doing support such as exam arrangement for the neurodivergent individuals, the students, right? But what happens to the mental health support, right? So they may be achieving academically, performing well, but their mental health is still not enough support for their mental health. So what is your thought on this statement? Okay, start Dr. Hasrul.
When we start the Inclusive Policy Act in higher education, we start with the public university. We have 20 public universities in Indonesia. So what the best thing is that I'm not sure why we start only the public universities, even if the problem is more rather way of the private university. But again, when we start the we have like we can see that we have one disability support unit that is supporting the student not only not only the academic mentors but also the way of living in the hostel, the thing of the it's about say about their schedules and so on, and also and if there's any issues adaptation. So very interesting that so we to understand that even though we have looking on a neurodivergent problem matters, but also we have a lot of trigger increased numbers of the mental health problem in our universities. So, but they do a different way of intervention. So, not many people really understand we have the intervention of the mental health and motivation issues. Some of the our deal related more issues of the socialization boosting. But again, or the academic methods, whenever you do the sum, a lot of what do you call this? Unique adaptation for each individual that it can affect it to sort about the yourself. My try is yes, it's good. We are starting introducing the discipline supported, but again, we need a lot of professional coming in university because a lot of with them our professors and knowing about theory can the sometimes in the
Totally.
Case. So when I was doing my undergrad, I was in. So from a perspective from the UK,
Yeah.
at the time I wasn't when I first started my degree. The first year I was struggling a bit. My grades. So we do it in the UK. It's like first two ones, two twos, and thirds. And at the time of the first year major exam, I wasn't doing great. I was about thirds and occasionally the two twos. And I felt so frustrated because I wasn't performing well. I actually got re-diagnosed at university. In terms of the actual helping on a kind of helping people have things like extra time, a laptop, that kind of thing is really good. And they really supported me there. They reassessed me, they gave me extra time, and the following year, my grades went to two ones and firsts for all of my exams, just by giving me extra time so that my brain could actually process what I was actually about to answer, so that I can answer it correctly. But from my perspective, the mental health aspect was not really looked after. And there were periods I had very bad depression, and that did actually like really affect me, especially if I had to compare myself with other people. And, you know, it was quite difficult. It's quite a challenge for me. And when I then went to Queen's University, quite a bit of time had got by then, maybe 6 years, they actually were offering their mental health counselors. So actually, in just 6 years, so much had progressed, even in the UK as a whole, that it started to get these mental health facilitators basically to come and help you and counsel you and stuff. And I think that's something which I really hope we can see more of in Malaysia, because it made such a difference to me. Because as Dr. Hasrul said, doing a PhD in particular is incredibly lemon-bitty. And if you do it in a university that you've already been at, you already have established friends. You have a network of people who you can rely on. When I lived over to Belfast, Northern Ireland, I didn't know a single person. And yeah, it took me a very long time just even to develop a few friendships. So having like in the casa to try and, you know, bounce my thoughts on, you know, it really made such a difference. So I think that for me it really helps. So we should try and promote that more, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Abby. How about Miss Dong?
Well, for me is that how about I say, if you were to look into the current policies, or at least even the no rejection policies by a previous, the then industry Minister of Education, the no rejection policy, you're just putting a full is, but that's not enough. What you want from a right-based perspective is that from the moment they enter till the moment they die as a human, that is what we should focus. Is that it's not just getting in, but getting out by the same time the transition and the workplace. I know it's not so getting an entry pass of no rejection policy. Of course, you can say that there's no rejection policies, but even across the years, you still hear there's discrimination in the news that prohibits there's this invisible door that stops autistic or disabled in general to get education. So I think that's a person we need to recognize. And the second thing is that if you look into the sport, University of Year recently came out the neurodivergent headline within the campus. But we also have to look into is that you need to know as counselor, this is me explanation now, is that a lot of all this mental health support, therapeutic approaches and everything, it might not necessarily be relevant to neuro approaches. And I'm saying this also from my clinical practice that a lot of times you really have to just throw away the textbook and just say, let's help anew. That what is in the textbook doesn't really work. And you really have to adapt and readapt. So if you are looking at just, okay, you know what, I'm going to throw a guideline, we are going to do this and do that. I know that's not going to work. What you have to do is to go back. Who is this person in front of me? Throw away all these labels and names. And these help you to understand them. But it shouldn't stop you to say, he's autistic, that's why he's like that. So that is how I see that we need to do it the bottom-up approach. That's what in research we call it the ground theory. That you go from the bottom to the top, not from a top-down approach. So yeah.
Actually, I hear a different perspective from all you three of you here. So, the main part that I like at Focus is the transition, where the struggle comes, right? And of course, a lot of information from you, Taryn, about the public university, where they provide a lot of help, and in relation with hope in future, there's many more helpful things for coming up. I'd like to move on to another level, going into the workplace, and it's more going to be a personal question for you. So, according to research, that's 90% of neurodivergent individuals they mask at workplace. So, talking about masking, it comes with a lot of discrimination, inputism, all these terms that that's occurring in the workplace. So, I want to welcome you to share. It can be any point or stages in your life, education, workplace, or even within the family. What is something where you face this thing like masking or discrimination, and how did you overcome that? Because it's about.
Uh, for me, that's fix the reality that discrimination and egoism is there. Okay, look, we are not gonna discredit efforts from a lot of people. Like PETRONAS come up great ideas, neurodiverse at workplace and everything. Let's not deny the Maybanks, etc., etc. But what we need to recognize the root cause is that this stigma and discriminatory policies and the lack in the law enforcement, it's perpetuate this cycle of disability discrimination. That there is indeed across different stages, even by the government itself, discriminating against disabled people. And that is fact. So what we need to look into is that why autism or neurodivergent to mask? Why is there a initiative to have to push harder? Because if not, they can't show that I'm struggling because of the motivational factors. Why? Because all these ableism factors in place that I can't come out and say that I'm autistic, ADHD, I support. Because the moment you declare, there's discrimination. Now, what the private sector is into telling us good effort, good initiatives, but it depends on the people at place. In that day, let's say PETRONAS, there's no somebody that says that's gonna do this and let's be adamantly this. There would be a PETRONAS neurodiversity workplace, or even in Cambodia, etc., etc. Then this becomes a mercy base, not a right base, and that's whereby the discrimination, the policy must be there, the anti-discrimination. And this is unfortunately lacking in the Malaysian law. That there is no law that says that you are prohibited to discriminate disabled people. The law says that disabled people can only access to this. But let's say, Debbie, you just say that about, you're autistic, I'm not going to invite you here, right? There's no law to punish to that. The law is unenforceable. And that is what is happening in higher education, in workplace, and we are relying a lot about mercy. But it is my right as human, as Malaysian, to access all the space. But why am I discriminated? So that is why the need to mask. Not because we want, but because I have to.
Totally agree with the boy. It just
Applaud you for sharing is actually how I feel as well. Yeah, I mean, to say when have I masked, when have I not masked is probably the right question. And that in itself is immensely exhausting. Been so tired. I have a few friends who really get me, and I don't have guts. They can accept me for who I am. But they're few and far between, and that's so sad. Every day I go in and kind of was already, I mean, it's kind of pretending to be this composed person who knows everything. But actually it's like, the analogy of a swan? They're so graceful on the surface, right? Underneath they're like, that's basically my verb. Going, underneath is just chaos and being manic almost, I will really, really show that. And I'm afraid that if I do, and I'm really fortunate to have a few bosses who really understand. I have been so supported in the workplace. The workplace has been the hardest mental space for me, definitely. And it's interesting because the people who really, the bosses who really understand me, they have neurodiverse children. They understand. Others, they don't. In a way, I don't want to. I also go on a label. I don't want to say like everybody else doesn't understand it. But at the same time, I also have to have self-preservation. And it's always like a balance between who can I trust to be myself with and who can I open up to. Yeah, I think it's finding that balance. And like I mentioned in another forum I did earlier, it's not about us and then. It should be collective we. We. If we are really going to be a community, even being human beings, you need to integrate because as I mentioned previously, we should all be the same. Being neurotypical, being neurodiverse, who actually cares? Because if you do not include neurodiverse people, companies are missing out on incredible talents who could create so much innovation. And that is, sayang that, as Malaysians would say, like, kesian. They're missing out on that. Yeah, so that's my perspective.
Saki, is the way that I think is the employment rate for the PWD is so low in nation. I will still remember when we put 1%. Yeah, okay, said those. So to stay with place three, because I'm become a national council last time, and I can see how top down doing the work it is, yeah. And because we as a researcher that you can see, actually we're not looking on from the underground, but actually when we talk about the supporting or dearly by of them, we can see that it's like ecological support system that need to be done on that. I agree with Dr. Abigail because as now our hierarchy employee at you recognize and understanding about the univision and so on because they have their relative who are diagnosis with autism also. So that's the changes happen because a lot of people have now seen what their relative actuality on the point of view. And talking about the employment supporting is essentially how their peers, not only there's the same department to support of this to looking on how they can excel in their way of job. One of the thing that I still remember when I have opportunity to visit in Minnesota, before we go to employment, they have 4 years another we call that transition class. So they end their school, secondary school, before they go to the higher education. They have another 4 years to learn about the social relationship. Yeah, so scared that all the things happen. So not only we are focusing to them, but also we invited the peers beta is with us together. Like we do in nature we have a PL galleries, so we need to integrate it. All the nationhood academy on the PLN, so put the PW together with our family student. That's the part that you are doing now with academic to invite it to bring together the children with adolescent with disabilities to have training similar to them. So I think that's the way we want to get more people inclusive going.
So let's say if I want to ask you for this, we will reveal from transition class. So let's say if you want to tell us what is the gap that we can fill in. Let's say now governments, private initiatives, you're coming with employment support. So what is something that we can learn for transition class?
Yeah,
I can see that a lot of the transition pass is coming from the teachers who are all the teachers who are away from the school is blowing their children, you know. So one of the things that we need to put together between the private and non-government organization and also the potential employee who are learns to have neurodivergent or if equal things, you know. You know that in United Nations they have talked about DEI, diversity, equal, and inclusion. So these three things that we need to put higher. We need to high focus on that because in Malaysia we're still looking on an inclusion, zero reject policy, and so on. But we didn't talk about the diversity and equal. So as a point that I can say we need to have a C point on that. Which is why I always emphasize this at the right pace because you see, all this is good. All this is definitely good. But there are some that the real direction just say that, you know, I can't go through this without support, a very, very minimal support. And this is whereby we will need to put a foot down. And this is what everybody, you know, like what Dr. Abigail says, that everybody we need to come together. And in Malaysia as well, is that there must be a foot down that says no discrimination policy. There's a no discrimination law, anti-discrimination law, that we need to pressure these entities who should be representing us on that. Because you see, all these issues are booked, even school, if you look into Malaysian education system, you have vocational schools, you have all that in as a draft. But if there's this discrimination part that is not addressed, there's no ability of address, and you have no ability to address discrimination, disability discrimination in Malaysia, you don't have a OKU tribunal. The only way is that you need to go to court. You can go to court, but how many of us can break this privilege to hire even a lawyer? So that must be there. That as good as all this ecosystem, especially the private in Malaysia, I'm fortunate to say private still will be even better than, you know, the government in terms of the initiatives. Like, you know, is looking at all the initiatives that's blooming these years. But when there's an anti-discrimination law that's absent, you know, these people like us, like Abigail, we are also rely on the mercy. That if we want, today we want to find a new job,
I'm terrified to make them our students.
and that's the reality. There's a reality believe that, and it's not that just because we are smart, we can't do much. But we can't explore new opportunities when there's a discrimination at place and a mass. And that's just something that I saw over Facebook threads, you know, over the past 2 weeks. There's one, and I just said that, no, you know, you can try, you know, go to forget. So you can try to see what you want because the job offer was withdrawn the moment they found out that this has autism or an ADHD. So ask for the change in the law. Ask for the amendment of the constitution.
If I may say one final thing as well, as Mr. Bao, it's systemic. It's systemic. It needs to be the change from them and us to we, from cradle to grave. It starts from education people. But yeah, I really feel that that's so important, you know. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. I think with that, I'd like to conclude this forum with 3 takeaways. One is the importance of, higher education sample and our law, and also the transition that a neurodivergent individual experience. And then also at the back, you can see the sites that's flashing. So there's more information of employment transition support, and not at the government and also the private initiatives providing the support. So you can get more information over there. Thank you.